Now, I'm not saying don't buy a home. I'm just saying renting doesn't mean you're throwing money away. Just because you're not building equity doesn't mean you won't come out ahead.
Who the f am I to tell you what to do with your money?
My name is Priya Malani, currently managing millions of hardworking dollars. Enough foreplay. Let's talk
Money.
Welcome to the F word. Smart money.
No bull.
Welcome to the F word. You've heard the line, renting is throwing money away. But is it really? Today I'm unpacking the emotional pressure to buy a home. I'm talking about when renting actually makes more financial sense. And how to know when you're ready to buy a home. And spoiler alert, just because your mom says it's time, doesn't mean it is. Let's get into it. People are convinced that renting is throwing money away. It's not, and I can prove it to you. The problem starts with thinking about buying a home as an investment. So what's wrong with that? Well, the problem is that an investment, definitionally, is something that grows with time and then you have access to. The problem with a home, you don't have access to that money unless you sell your home. That's part one. Part two is people completely under-index the amount of money that they've put into their home, thereby making it seem like the amount of money that they've made is so much greater than what they've actually made. People think of it very simply. This is what I put in for the down payment. This is what I could sell the house for if I sold it in the market today. B minus A, wow, tons of investment growth. The problem is you haven't calculated property taxes, maintenance, the closing costs, renovations, and then when you sell it, you have to pay the broker. 6% is renting throwing money away. Mathematically, the answer is no, because it's all about what you're buying. When you're renting, what are you buying with your rent? You're buying freedom, flexibility, and zero responsibility. I need a light bulb changed? I call my landlord. Too much hair in the bathtub? I call my landlord. Grass to mow? I don't have any. Lucky me. Now, I do tip well at the holidays. What I don't value is spending my time at Home Depot on the weekends because I need to get a new drain plug for my shower. What I don't value is spending $12,000 on a new roof. I value not having to deal with the fact that my patio floods, which I didn't know before I bought the home because the only time I ever saw it was when it was sunny outside. That's so real. Now, I'm not saying don't buy a home. I'm just saying renting doesn't mean you're throwing money away. Just because you're not building equity doesn't mean you won't come out ahead. That said, there are many people who buying a home makes perfect sense for. You like home reno projects. You are comfortable with whatever is needed to make sure your home stays in good condition. You don't see yourself going anywhere for the next 7+ years. You have a dog that needs a backyard. You have kids in a school district that you absolutely love. You have a job that you know isn't going anywhere and will allow you to afford the mortgage without any worry. Maybe you fall in love with a neighborhood, or maybe you fall in love with a home. You never want the risk of having to leave it. Oh, another very pragmatic reason to buy a home is because you're just sick of moving. With buying a home, those are risks you don't have to worry about. So if you're like, I definitely cannot deal with the fact that my rent may go up. The crazy thing is, when you buy a home, you may end up with monthly housing costs that are more expensive than renting. Similar to leasing versus buying a car. A lot of times with leasing, you can get into something way nicer for way less money. Like, I could never buy this and afford the monthly mortgage. Same thing with leasing a car. You can often lease a car that is way nicer than the car you could actually buy. The stereotype around leasing or renting is that you don't make enough money to buy your car or your home. But that's not true. It all boils down to what you value. I have enough money to buy a home, but that's not where I want to put my money. I think so many people want to buy a home because they've been told that it's a smart investment. Let's talk about it. There was a study done that showed that over the last 126 years, home prices across America have appreciated 0.37% after inflation. Basically saying that home prices have barely kept pace with inflation, eked out a little bit ahead. That right there debunks the fact that your home is going to be your best investment. Mathematically, that is not true. Now, there are cases in bubble markets where home prices do appreciate at a rapid pace, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's guaranteed. You never want to think about your primary home as an investment. Because as I said earlier, in order for you to reap the rewards of that investment, you have to sell it. And usually, when the time comes for you to need that money to live off of it, you don't want to sell your home. That's where the grandkids like coming. That's where the family gathers at the holidays. You know it. It feels familiar. You're not going to sell it. And if you sell it in order to access your money, now you have to downsize. I don't know about you, but I hope to upgrade my lifestyle continually, including in retirement. For those of you who are thinking, yeah, but I don't want to pay somebody else's mortgage, I got to tell you this. It's not about paying somebody else's mortgage. It's about what you're getting in return. And if the value's there, it doesn't really matter as much. Because whether you're paying rent or mortgage, it's about what you're getting in return and whether or not you value that. I value freedom and flexibility and no responsibility. So for me, it makes way more sense to rent and use the excess that would go to a mortgage, because a mortgage for this place would definitely be more than I'm currently paying in rent. And the difference, I choose to invest. I also choose to go on vacation with it. I also choose to use it for my lifestyle. I have enough left over because my rent is lower and I have the freedom and flexibility that I can use that difference for other things I care about, like growing my money in the market and increasing my lifestyle, and not spending my weekends fixing things. Disclaimer, you could still rent, which I have done in the past, and owned a home that I put a renter in, and she paid my mortgage. A home as an investment property is different than a home that you're using as your primary residence. A home as your primary residence is almost never a good investment. A home as an investment property that you put a tenant in and they pay your mortgage, that's a totally different story and one that I'm not talking about today. So to be clear, I am talking about the fact that a home is not a good investment when it's your primary residence. If you're buying a home to put a tenant in it, totally different story. Our average client living in a big city, somewhere in their 30s, earning six figures, they're probably paying between $3,000 and $5,000 for their rent. And that's if they don't have a family. Is that crazy? No, I don't think so. If they're not in debt, still able to save for the things that they care about in the future, why shouldn't they? There's no hard and fast rule that 25 or 35% of your income has to go to your monthly household expenses. I think of it this way. If you love your home and you spend a lot of time there, you're probably going to spend more on it. But if you're out every night, you travel for work, or you're just enjoying your life and you spend less time at home, maybe you don't spend so much on it. It really boils down to where you want to spend your money and what suits your lifestyle best. The last thing you want to do is stretch to get into a home before you're financially ready and become house poor. I'll talk all about being house poor in another episode, but it's a common mistake I see because people feel the pressure of renting is throwing money away. So I just want to bust that myth. Renting is not throwing money away when it's for your primary home. Because what you're getting in return, you might value. And to lock yourself into a 30-year mortgage because you think it's a smarter investment, it just doesn't always turn out to be that way. Math doesn't always work. Don't fall victim to social media and the pressure of feeling like you have to say you bought a home just to put yourself in a situation where you are now locked into a 30-year payment and you didn't want that responsibility. It's such a huge responsibility to buy a home and comes with so many things that people never think about. I remember one client who was really excited to buy in California, and come to find out, she bought in a flood zone. And in the first year of owning, her basement flooded twice. She was like, I wish I never bought. Renting was so much easier. So that's one horror story, but I have countless others. Just think about your lifestyle and what you really care about. If you value flexibility and low responsibility like I do, then maybe buying a home is something you can push off, especially now that you know that a home is not necessarily the cornerstone of your investment portfolio the way you've been told it is. Look, it's no secret that I'm a lifelong renter and I have opinions, but my opinions are not about my personal preference. It's more about busting this myth that renting is throwing money away. I see way too many high earners fall victim to stretching their budget way beyond what they can afford because they feel like they're wrong to rent. And that is absolutely not the case. So while I might be a lifelong renter, I'm all about supporting you getting into a home as long as it's for the right reasons. A friend of mine lives in Brooklyn and her dad thinks it's absolutely crazy that she drops $7,000 a month on rent. But she doesn't want to spend her weekends at Lowe's and Home Depot, and she doesn't want to have to worry about fixing up her place and the upkeep. So for her, it makes perfect sense to spend $7,000 a month on rent. What I respect is the fact that she tells her dad to keep his opinion to himself. You know what's best for you. Don't fall victim to pressure from your parents or from your friends or from social media. I hope I've busted this myth once and for all. Renting is not throwing money away. It's what you get in return. If this episode gave you permission to delay homeownership or made you realize that you're more ready than you thought, share it with someone who's house hunting on Zillow just for fun. And please hit follow so you don't miss what's coming next. All right, see you next time. Thanks for listening to The F Word with Priya Malani. If you like what you heard, hit subscribe wherever you're listening and leave us a review while you're at it. We're approval junkies. Don't forget, you can find a ton of great resources, content, courses, and other freebies at stashwealth.com. Now, for the capital S stuff our lawyers want us to say. StashWealth is a registered investment advisor. Content presented is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to make an offer or solicitation for any specific securities, product, service, or strategy. Consult with a qualified investment advisor, that's us, before implementing any strategy. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. Past performance does not guarantee future results. There, we said it.
Did I have that up?